Welcome to EVTN News, everyone. So this morning, I saw on Twitter that there would be some information that would be released that would cause Kissy to be fired. Kissy Fernandez, the CDF or DDF or whatever it's called, the um, cardinal in charge of doctrine at the Vatican, would cause him to be fired. And I said, really, I don't think there's anything that would cause him to be fired unless he was a traditionalist. Then he would get fired. Or if he defended marriage, of course, real marriage, which is between a man and a woman. But anyway, I'm going to get to that. I'll get to that later. And it's not going to be, I'm not going to be able to talk about it as much as you think. So if that's all you're waiting for, then I think you might be disappointed. And just a quick explanation on this channel. So what I do with my news stories is I usually try to present them in chronological order. I kind of take the most pressing, I don't know if I want to say that, but sort of the most widely known news stories, or at least the ones that will be I don't know, it might be the most eye-catching news stories. I put those in the title, but I try to maintain somewhat of a chronological order from when they happen because it is the weekly news. And really, the order that I present them in is the order that I see them, and so obviously it's not going to be exactly correct in the chronological order, but for me, it's the order that I see them in. So something that happened last week, early last week, and something that happened, it will be presented before something that happened yesterday. So just that quick explanation. And I actually wanted to follow up. So last week I presented Pope Francis's his homily at St. Peter's Basilica on January 1st, and I missed something. I actually missed something really big. So he, in that homily, he talked about like women's role in the church and all that stuff. Yeah, whatever. But he quoted Martin Luther in that speech, in that homily. He said, here's the quote, indeed it was once written, here's the quote, indeed it was once written, quote, it was not the fullness of time that brought about the sending of the Son of God, but the sending of the Son that brought about the fullness of time, end quote. It was from Martin Luther, 1516 to 1517. Wow. Okay. So Pope Francis likes Martin Luther. So I think Pope Francis's values, I mean, clearly, take a look at what's been even, I mean, you can look at the last 11 years, but take a look at what's happening in the recent past, and you will see that, yeah, Pope Francis's values are more in line with heretics. And I don't really feel, I don't know. I mean, saying that, I mean, I don't really see a problem with that anymore. I mean, I see a problem with Pope Francis. And so does Dr. Regis Martin. He is the professor of theology and faculty. He is professor of theology and faculty associate with the Veritas Center for Ethics and Public Life at the Franciscan University of Steubenville. Wow, he couldn't have a longer title, and the center couldn't have a longer name. But anyway, he wrote an article for Crisis Magazine, and in it he said, so what do you tell the Pope? If it were me, here's what I'd say. Your Holiness, with all due respect, there are two things you must do, and two more you might do. The first two are fairly easy. Get rid of Fernandez, then dump the declaration, of course the LMNOP blessings. As for the remaining two, these are optional, but I'd strongly recommend both. Resign the office that has become so tortuous to occupy, then go off to the nearest monastery for a life of prayer and penance. And actually, I mean, I want to call on all the cardinals and bishops to do that. There are a few good ones, but a lot of them are just going along to get along, and it's not good. It's pretty sad, actually. So the significance of this is kind of important. Here's a professor at the University of Steubenville publicly calling for Francis to resign. I think we need more of these people stepping up and saying this. Maybe his friend, or well, I don't want to say friend, but maybe his fellow professor Scott Hahn is going to back him up in this. I hope. Let's, you know, we go. I mean, we're in a real crisis. Like we're in one of the worst crises in church history. So you gotta do what you gotta do. And are you gonna stay silent, keep your mouth shut? Even Cardinal Sarah's spoken up. We'll see that later. But first, more Latin Mass is crushed. I don't know if that's gonna be. Hopefully, it won't be a trend this year. But it seems as though churches have received permission extensions for offering the Latin Mass, and they are expiring. Some of them are due to expire this year, and I'll report on that, unfortunately. 4 parish churches in the Diocese of Charlotte have been granted permission from the Vatican to continue offering the traditional Latin Mass. Bishop Peter Jugas has announced, abiding by Pope Francis' new norms shifting the traditional Latin Mass to non-parochial churches. Bishop Jugas sought a dispensation for the 4 parishes in geographically diverse locations that have traditionally served the faithful. Okay, 5 other parishes that have been offering the traditional Latin Mass in their parish churches may no longer do so. This says less frequently and for the Latin Masses less frequently for smaller groups may no longer do so, Bishop Jugas said in a December 6 memo to priests. Mission churches and non-parochial chapels that have been offering the traditional Latin Mass were not affected by the Vatican's decision and will continue as directed. So move your Latin Mass to a chapel or a non-parish church. The Pope's instructions also does not permit the continued celebration of the pre-Vatican II form of other sacraments and rites such as confirmation or marriage. We got to resist that. I mean, of course, unjust laws deserve resistance. So, okay, and we're taking it to the next level here. The Diocese of Livorno in Tuscany, Italy, issued a decree on January 1st notifying Catholics that Father Ramon Guidetti publicly committed a schismatic act, or quote, that's what they said, during Mass, and as ipso facto incurred late sententiae excommunication, or an automatic excommunication. A video uploaded to YouTube shows Father Roman Guidetti calling Pope Francis a usurper and a Freemason in his homily given on December 31st, 2023, to mark the one-year anniversary of Benedict XVI's death. In the homily, the priest further denied that Pope Francis has been the Pope for the last decade. So he's kind of he's resisting. Now, if other priests did this in the diocese, what would happen? Would they all be excommunicated? And if priests publicly resisted the LMNOP blessings document and called out anyone who, and if several priests, I'm saying even five in one diocese, is the bishop going to excommunicate these people? Now, I don't know that it's a great idea to publicly deny that Francis has been the Pope for the last decade, because I don't know that would be correct. I think you need to be cautious about saying that. But as far as a usurper and a Freemason, that's certainly fitting. I certainly believe that Francis occupies the chair of St. Peter. That doesn't mean he's the Pope, but sort of like our, well, sort of like the current resident of the White House. But anyway, um, yeah, if priests called Pope Francis a Freemason in their homilies and say there were like five in one diocese, or at least even they resisted these the LMNOP blessings, and or they called Kissy Fernandez just a perv like he really is, then the bishop wouldn't kick out five priests at once, would he? I mean, in any diocese, that would cause a horrible logistics problem. So, I mean, if only, right? We're living in a dream world. If priests stood up, if priests had some guts and spoke the truth, even just a few of them at once, what would happen? We'd be in a much better spot than we are now. That's for sure. All right, so apparently there is some kind of Lutheran mass that existed in the Archdiocese of Portland, Oregon. So Archbishop Sample of Portland, Oregon stated that it is his duty to guard the entire liturgical life of the Catholics in his care, and he has barred priests from celebrating Mass for what was possibly the only Catholic Lutheran ecumenical community of its kind in the United States. Well, not really. And this is from the National Catholic Distorter, so, we got to laugh about some things, and sometimes they post articles that are super hilarious, and you just could only laugh at them. I think there was one article they posted about how these far leftists were so scandalized by Catholicism that they had a young priest who was fairly traditional, and they were repulsed by it so badly that they got some independent like lefty priests to say that some fake mass in an auto body shop. So that was pretty funny, I have to admit. And this one's kind of funny too, but it's actually really sad because Sample let this go on for so long, and then he finally just now worked up the courage to ban it. Although, what courage does it take? It's not Catholic. Just denounce it and move on. Anyway, it's called Spirit of Grace, located in the Portland suburb of Beaverton. It was established in 1986 with backing from the local Catholic and Lutheran church leaders. That's pathetic. It was permitted by 3 preceding Portland archbishops. So, does that mean they're all heretics? And is listed as a mission of nearby St. Anthony Parish in the 2023 Oregon Catholic Directory published by the Archdiocese. A longtime Lutheran pastor of the congregation, Lori Larson Caesar, became the first female Lutheran Bishop of Oregon in 2019. So she's a fake pastor and fake bishop. And it's weird. I mean, obviously, but I'm concerned about these preceding archbishops. Are they heretics? Did they think this was okay? That's pretty terrible. I mean, it kind of speaks volumes for their theological training, which was probably terrible. Okay, moving on to China. Bishop Peter Xiao Zhumin of Wenzhou was arrested January 2nd, according to Asia News. The 61-year-old archbishop is not recognized by the Chinese government because he has refused to register with the Chinese Patriotic Catholic Association, the state-sponsored communist church. Xiao has been routinely detained around holidays in order to block him from celebrating Mass on major liturgical feasts. In this case, however, he was taken into custody over Christmas, but arrested a week later. After he penned a letter objecting to changes in the diocese made by Father Ma while he was away. So, Bishop Peter Xiaozumin has been on the target of the Chinese Communist Party for quite a while, because he wants to be Catholic and not communist, which you can't be both, obviously. And the Chinese government, he's just a big target for them. Now this is sad, but when you have a pope who's, I don't want to say a communist, but when he is a supporter of communism, Marxism, Marxism, we'll say, when you have a pope who's a supporter of Marxism and a government who implements procedures or who implements Marxist ideals, you're going to get anti-Catholic atheism, material, like a atheist government worship type of thing. I don't know. All right, but that's just kind of sad. Okay. But yeah, he won't worship the state, so that's what you get. And we gotta resist. All right, Cardinal Sarah. Yes, getting to him. So he firmly rejected the LMNOP blessings document, saying, "To maintain peace and unity and truth, we must refuse to argue with the divider. We must respond to confusion with the word of God." He adds, "I must thank the Episcopal conferences that have already carried out this work of truth, in particular those of Cameroon, Chad, Nigeria, whose decisions and firm oppositions to the Fiducius Supplicans declaration I share and make my own." So he's firmly resisting the errors of Pope Francis and his assistant Kissy, Fernandez. So a little late to the party, of course, actually very late to the party, but still here. There's plenty of room. Hop on board. The anti-Francis train is picking up steam. We're going downhill. It's speeding up pretty quick. And, I mean, it's crazy to say. There's a lot of people on board, but there's still a lot of room. So jump on. The Church of Santa Cruz y la Soledad in the heart of Mexico City, the 7th oldest Catholic church in all of Mexico, is currently being inhabited by nearly 1,000 immigrants on their way to the United States. So they opened the church, house immigrants. And something clicked in my mind. There's vacant churches in the United States. You probably have a bunch in your diocese, whatever. I mean, if you're from the United States, you probably have at least several that, I mean, maybe they've been sold. It's possible, unless your diocese is really, really new. Maybe Western United States, where there's been population growth in certain areas. Most, especially, I saw this article and I thought, wow, it's entirely possible. Dioceses are sitting on, most of them are sitting on lots of vacant buildings. With the government money that's coming in from immigration, it would not surprise me, and I'm not saying that this is actually going to happen, but it wouldn't surprise me to see these vacant churches being opened up as immigrant centers, with the government money, with government obviously funding this, or like vacant, say vacant school buildings. Okay, so there's some old Catholic school buildings that are vacant, and those could be opened up. They could have they have running water potentially. I mean, they could house illegal immigrants. I wouldn't be surprised to see it. So, just a thought. And I do want to point out a few things. Well, at least one. So the most recent financial statements from the USCCB, their government revenue. The government grants nearly doubled from the previous year. They're up to $122 million in government grants. Catholic charities, I think every diocese in the United States has a Catholic Charities branch. And they're all independent of each other, so Catholic Charities USA does not report their financial statements together, but I did a study in 2018. It's probably still on this channel somewhere. I don't want to say probably, it is on this channel somewhere. It is, Catholic Charities is, they receive significant government funding, so I couldn't even get financial statements for half of the diocese's Catholic Charities branches, but of the ones I did get, collectively they received $2.3 billion. In 2018 they received $2.3 billion. So I would, if you extend that, it's probably closer to at least like 5 billion every year from the United States government. That's significant, right? I mean, that's a lot of money, and it's a large portion of the revenue of Catholic charities. Because of that, if the government money is shut off, then they would have to cut a lot of their staff. A lot of people would be fired, or at least lose their jobs. And of course, that's always not fun to do, and no one wants to do that. And so they just keep the government money coming in. Now, it's not, government money isn't always bad. I mean, you can take money. If the government gives you money, you'll take it, right? But what if there's conditions attached? So what if you speak out against LMNOP? What if you speak out against the perversion of children? And your money's going to maybe be cut off. What if you speak out against the slaughter of the unborn? And your money's going to be cut off, right? What if you, but when you're in the business of immigration, of course, you're going to include that in the prayers of the faithful and the Novus Ordo. Okay, let's move on to Kissy. A sexually explicit 1998 book by Victor Manuel Cardinal Fernandez, otherwise known as Kissy, has recently resurfaced. Entitled Mystical Passion, Spirituality, and Sensuality, the book by the Argentinian cardinal builds upon themes contained in his scandalous work, Heal Me With Your Mouth, The Art of Kissing. And I actually, when I compiled this sentence, I cut some parts out because I can't talk about this because I will get flagged. This video will get flagged for explicit content if I actually read out loud the news article, the news articles. Even Catholic News Agency posted something. If I read that out loud, this video will, I think it will get restricted based on inappropriate content. I think it would. I think YouTube would do that. So I can't do that. And furthermore, I can't recommend that you actually read it. I can't recommend that you read any of the articles. Now, I do have a question. Have any of you read it? And what did you read? How much of it did you read? Did you read a little bit? I mean, even the, what do I say? Even the hyperlink, you can kind of tell that you probably don't want to read it. So you can take my word for it. I'm not sure what the rest of the people are talking about. Like Taylor Marshall, I think, had a live stream, and I don't know if he's still on right now, but I saw he had a live stream about it. I didn't watch it. I wonder what he is saying about it. I wouldn't recommend listening to other people discuss it, and not just because my opinion's important, but it's just not something that you should be reading. I guess I'll say that. I'm gonna, later on today, I'm gonna go and read some books, Catholic books, and it's not going to include this stuff from Kissy. And I feel like that's a lot better for me than reading Kissy's filth, I guess is what you kind of say. Now, I told you at the beginning of the show I saw a tweet that said that Kissy could get fired and lose his job over this, and I was like, I, I don't know what would make him lose his job. I mean, he's clearly unfit for. I, I mean, he's clearly unfit for representing the Catholic Church. There's no question about that. Um, this is not this is not something that gets you fired in the Francis Church. I mean, if you had a pope who was any even remotely concerned about the Catholic faith, then of course he would be gone. Kissy would be gone in a heartbeat. He'd be gone as more quickly than you could snap your fingers. But in the Francis Church, it would get him promoted. Of course, he's already in a really high position. I don't know how he could get promoted anymore, besides Pope. But anyway, speaking to Crux now, Kissy said he was still young when he wrote the book. He said he was 36 and had been a priest for 12 years. He said, I certainly would not write it now. Now he says that he withdrew, it's called Passion Mystica, shortly after its publication and never allowed it to be reprinted. Nevertheless, he continues to claim that the disgusting book made sense at the time because he was talking to young couples who wanted to better understand the spiritual meaning of their relationships. After writing and publishing the book, he suddenly feared that it could be misinterpreted. He said, that's why I don't think it's a good idea to distribute it now. In fact, I did not authorize it and it is against my will. I wonder why he all of a sudden decided to withdraw the book. Because he obviously, when you're writing a book, I mean, I've never written a book. I've only written like blog posts, and even those take a decent bit of time to write. And so you clearly have intentional deliberation on this for quite an extensive time. So clearly it wasn't just a spur of the moment type of thing. I mean, you don't just write a book in a few days. I mean, I guess you can write a shell of a book in a few days, but it takes an extensive time with the editing and publishing, proofreading. So, just like any of his other excuses, this is clearly insufficient, and he's definitely in over his head. I mean, I don't. I don't know if this is the biggest scandal in the Francis Church ever. Is it? I mean, the McCarrick wasn't like, he wasn't working in the Vatican, I guess. But this guy's a perv. He needs to quit. Oh, actually, I'll take it from Vigano. All right. The last thing I have is Vigano's comments. He said the blasphemous sewer regurgitations of Tucci's repulsive pamphlet show such a level of perversion and alienation to the faith as to demand the expulsion manu militari of the Argentinian and his accomplices. The Swiss guards have sworn to defend the See of Peter, not the one who is systematically demolishing it. Let them therefore be faithful to their oath and arrest these heretical perverts. So Vigano says it best. Much more articulate than I can say. So Didymus, thank you for joining us. Thank you for joining me tonight. Who am I talking about? Myself and my invisible friend. Yeah, great. Or myself and my guardian angel. I guess I can take a look at it that way. But I don't refer to myself as us. Although, I'm not even going to mention that. Okay, tell them what they don't want to hear. I think they would expel 5 priests. So, okay, going back to if 5 priests spoke out against the modernists that are running things. I guess that's sort of a a more politically correct term, modernist instead of pervert. But I think they would expel 5 priests. Denying modernity is the only heresy of the Vatican II sect. Well, I don't know, because I think a lot of the bishops are more about numbers than anything else. Of course, we're not going to. Unfortunately, I don't think we'll see 5 priests in a diocese resist, unless it has to do with like taking away money or something. I don't know, but I don't think priests affiliated with the diocese. I don't think you'd see enough collectively resist, which is really sad. It's really sad to see. You should look into the decline of a Lutheran Missouri Synod. It's like a mini Vatican II. Oh, I don't even want to. Is Shao a trad or a Novus Ordo liberal? The Chinese bishop? I don't know. But it seems, you know, yeah, the history of the Chinese church is interesting, because I heard that under Mao Zedong, of course, Catholicism was banned, but they never had. So this was during Vatican II, and they never had the new Mass until after Mao. And so they had their Latin Mass for many years after it was banned in the mainstreams. All the liberal churches are paid to be underground railroads in illegally importing the third world into the USA. Well, it's the mainstream church. It's the mainstream church, the USCCB. So it's not just liberal churches. It's your conservative churches that are also funding this large underground railroad. No, I don't read. Okay, I'm not going to read that. And actually, honestly, like I said, this stuff would get me flagged. Like it would. I don't know what they do with that kind of adult content, but I don't think people can actually talk about this stuff on YouTube. I don't think that the Catholic YouTubers can read this word for word and not get some kind of restriction. Vigano calling for a coup. Well, Vigano, but I don't know about that. I don't know that he's calling for removal, the just removal of an unjust usurper. Is that what he's saying? All right. So I'm sorry to disappoint you. Eventually the bishops might wake up about illegal immigration being bad, but it'll be too late. Well, I mean, the money's nice. They're not getting it from us, that's for sure. The bishops are getting their money from the government, not us. And you can't donate to a diocese. And even if you donate, let me say this. If you donate to a monastery, it goes 100% to a monastery. If you donate to the FSSP or Institute at a church, that is, I'm assuming they get permission from the diocese, they're taxed. And so you need to write a check and restrict it to something, like utility bills or something. You have to restrict it. Otherwise, you're going to be taxed, and your money, I've heard 20% in some dioceses. The diocese taxes the churches 20%. 20% of your money that you drop in the collection basket goes to the diocese. So if you go to an Ecclesia Dei group like FSSP or Institute, you need to, if you donate money, you need to restrict it to something. Ask the pastor. Ask the pastor where you can restrict it. Say that you don't want anything going to the USCCB because you're funding this. You're funding this immigration. That's more or less straight from Michael Hitchborn. You shouldn't fund a Novus Ordo parish at all. The bishop hates you. In almost any case, the bishop basically hates you. and he doesn't want you to have a reverent mass. In most cases, I'm generalizing, but if the nuncio told him to crush the Latin Mass, he wouldn't even question it. He'd crush it. I'd say 70 to 80% of bishops wouldn't even think twice and just crush a Mass if the nuncio told them to. So you shouldn't give any money to Novus Ordo stuff. Now, if you have like a diocesan parish, that you have a diocesan Latin Mass, your money is going to the diocese, your money is going to a Novus Ordo parish. Do they have good... No, they don't. They don't have good catechesis because they're affiliated with the diocese. No, they don't. So, I hate to be so straight up, but, oh, we have a 4-day-old baby here, so we're super excited. Well, congratulations. That's exciting. Very exciting. Wait, let me calculate this out. So today is the 8th. Okay, January 4th. So in Christmas, or was it Epiphany Tide? I don't know. But that's exciting. I have a nephew whose birthday is January 1st. That's pretty cool. I have a relative whose birthday is November 1st. So holy days. Very much holy days. But I do not have a holy day birthday. That's okay. Most of us don't, right? But anyway, that's it. I will get back to you next week. There's always a lot of news. And it seems as though the news cycle is ramping up. Francis is going nuts. And so is... he's just appointing these terrible people. I mean, he's such a horrible judge of character. Or maybe it's intentional. And that's concerning. The birthday is the conversion of St. Paul. Well, and you know, I'm reading, what is it, Alban Butler's Lives of the Saints. It's the abridged version. I actually have, I have one of the books of his Lives of the Saints. I was able to snag it. But it's only one of the volumes of the Lives of the Saints, and I thought, man, I need a lot of free time in order to read it. The daily readings, it's crazy. It's like far more reading than, no, not far more reading, but it's probably comparable to the Bible in a year reading, so you'd have to be really dedicated if you wanted to finish like the real, like, extended version of his Lives of the Saints, because I think it's 4 volumes. Could be wrong. But it's a lot of books, a lot of pages. So, anyway, if you have any favorite books, let me know. I guess that's kind of a closing thought. And another closing thought is that, yeah, there's going to be a lot of news stories. I mean, it's just constant, and the anti-Francis bandwagon is really filling up. And it just seems like a new person each day denounces Francis in a different way. And with my voice going, that's time for me to close. So thank you so much for watching. Until next time, we are the laity, and we will not be silent.